would carry. There's still a few seats if anybody wants one. Welcome to Malvern Books. I was told to say that. I'm Brett, the manager of Malvern Books. Things didn't work out at the Michener Center. I want to thank Holly Doyle, Billy Fatzinger, and everybody for making this event possible. We're at a moment in history when it's very tempting to overlook poetry, but we're also at a moment in history where we need poetry more than ever. Thank you for giving it the gift of your presence tonight. And of course, as the manager of Malvern Books, I want to thank Malvern Books for having us. This is the fourth event in this year's Michener Center for Writers series, and we're thrilled to partner with one of the country's finest independent bookstores. We'll be back here on April 25th for an event with Kathy Park Hong, so I hope you'll join us for that too. But tonight we're here for Jane Miller. She's going to read from her outstanding new collection of poems, Who is Trixie the Trasher?, which I just found out has been nominated for a Lambda Literary Award. Now Jane's mad at me for saying that. Publishers Weekly of Trixie the Trasher said, Miller's writing is brassy but earnest, and she suffuses her approach to fraught social politics with humor and exuberant interest in people. And, fittingly, the Lambda Book Report said, Jane Miller is by far one of our best poets writing today. And this next thing is, I think, the kind of review that every writer would pay good money for. Miller is like the NASA space station of poetry. Out of this world, yet of it, and still looking down. See? More personally, I will say that Jane is one of the most beloved and inspiring teachers in the history of the Michener Center for Writers. Thank you. She constantly challenges our writers to take their art seriously and to take themselves seriously as artists. In the lives of emerging writers, this is rare, empowering, and invaluable. In getting to know Jane and her extraordinary work as a poet and as a teacher, I've come to understand that few things matter to her more than the making of literary art. Her dedication to art, on the page and in the classroom, is an inspiration, something that we would all do very well to emulate. Readers and writers, Jane Miller.
We were up late and everyone had been drinking. And someone said, hey, is that God's head on boil? We didn't know where to look or what to think. It was obviously some sort of perverse joke, or not, right? And the conversation went on for days, thirsty, sober, asleep, awake. What did it matter? Some of us felt the real time was for something, but what? And the questions kept coming once they started. My favorite one being two strung together. What makes art modern, and what does urgent mean now? Where was the greater good? That was another worry bandied about, followed by where was the common tent, which gave a feeling of empathy for a minute, and then grief, because, well, where was it? Will you arm, hoard seeds, go hungry? Those terrified me because, after all, who will repair things when the end is pale or dark? Where will you hide out when capital runs out? When water? Which will be greater, the heat or the wait, did God's boiling head just say something? Cry out, go to hell, from a giant lobster pot, tantalizing us with where to go next? Are phosphorescent lamps to mark escape paths? Not that it's not a great party, but whose place is this? Bandaging suns and quail, banana leaves. Who invited us? Why are the emerald bleeding and the ivory weeping? Lower the freaking music. Does anyone have the time? Opening to my new collection that Brett just told you about in his own introduction. This next poem is called Whether the Goat is a Metaphor. It was written in collaboration with Yulia Lanina, a local artist who does makes these wonderful mechanical sculptures. And so this is based on a Russian fairy tale, and the principal characters are a brother and a sister. Whether the goat is a metaphor. We go on talking and digging a pit in the earth to spit roast kid, since anyone working in a lively rhythm is not attached to the story. In saving her, he saves himself. It's getting late. The story of the boy is that by drinking water from a hoof, he's turned into a goat. If we separate magic from life, we get art. His sister, long story short, gets thrown into a river with a stone around her neck. His weeping stirs the neighbors with a silken net to scoop her out. He turns 3 somersaults of joy and lands on 2 feet as a boy again. How, in heaven's name, will dinner be served? And when? Separate art from life, we get nothing. We go on talking and digging. I've got 1,000,010 things to do. Of the multitude of things, it is emptiness that's necessary now that you've had time to wash and dress. As a form of enlightenment, the most unsuspecting guest is your enemy in armor or invisible, who will clap you on the back when you choke on a bone at the banquet. Let me return to a poem that has a list of questions, more intimate ones. Swan hair. Was there a murder nearby, talked about all year, less and less by you, as you drove quickly by, others stopped to gawk? Were you in love at the time? Was your mother still alive? Are you dressed now, therefore, in public? Are you walking home alone? Is it human? Does it occur to you that while grasses blow, without anyone observing wind, relationships befall you? Do you want to be aroused by words, or does that bore you like porn? Are you yourself hungry? Is there a sense that you're on a floating bed? Do you think of yourself in an apartment by the sea, winter, a few neighbors and foghorns, early evening, and the mood already gloomy? Can you recall if anyone helped you? Do you compare yourself to a passerby in a loose white blouse and jeans? Do others shut down, nearer your power? If I think of you, will I draw another breath? Was there a melon in high season or a wall when it snowed? And didn't the tray weigh nothing on your body when your dearest woke you with a plate of toast and ginger, lingering in the room while you dressed in tights, a slip, and a mustache to be funny? Did you laugh? Do you forget? When you made love and smelled of sweat and mint, did you wake too early? Did it matter? Did you anticipate your birthday and the hundreds of people? Were those slippers, tap shoes, heels, and sneakers rarely worn because you lay around in a cloud? Did people want you? Were you scandalous? Were you available? Had you money? Were you thrilled? Did you cleave? How? Were you valiant, furtive, masculine? Were the dishes done? Did you suffer? Do I know? If you cried, was it a moment, an hour, or much longer? Did you never? Do I believe you? Did you imagine your everyday life as a frog, or victim, or swimmer, or liar, or a pair of binoculars, or a winning ticket? Is feeling surreal like swan hair? Was that your city? Were you tired? Was there shock, pleasure? Was there water nearby? Who cooked all afternoon? Who bicycled for wine? Was your intelligence obvious? Forgiven? Did you put a hand in the fire? Did you drive a car into the lake? Do you want more of a story on a gift, as a gift on a postcard to a secret admirer, as a guard against the fashion, as a volume of trysts, in a pronouncement of your politics, as a win, as a monument to defeat in a moment when the vanguard upgrades you? For your time on earth, did love shape you? Is time passing naturally brutal? Does it make you think bravely of war, of the best of civilization in makeshift camps? And was it a battle of time versus dream fought over a dugout of sheets? Did you account for the dark plastic on the windows? Did you sleep in your dress? When did you become old or dead? Would you behold what is tender and still when you went in for a kiss and came out a magnifying glass? Why go downstairs to read? Weren't you listening to what was said? Didn't the end of life make you sad so you couldn't write or think? Isn't it when the strings are taut, you play with complete abandon? Does no one hear? This next poem is written in columns, can be read down. Each one can be read separately, or in some cases it can be read across. So I thought I would read it across. It's a little bizarre, but then poetry is a little bizarre, is it not? So, the title is Laser. We don't choose hope, we choose words. The empty space, that will be us. A darkness of midday absorbs a gold couch for the helpless and dispossessed. As proof, our earthlessness is years of a long lost story, not eons away. Of the first people, we stare stupidly. Someone careens up the steep driveway, drops off into the world's furnace a package, and leaves, until we see ourselves to write of outdoors under the assumption, as charcoal in it, that nature prevails. I may open the door. Is that the phrase? In a day or two, to spread an old Russian shawl, to write outdoors. It's summer. As skywriting, some words briefly quiver a delicious wind after great noise and speed. Of the last few, it could be said we hallucinate air-conditioned freezes onto a refrigerator white wall until the darkness shreds for environmental advantage. Its veil tomorrow, a creamy young light, goes off, renewing an intimacy with the pagan gods of daily life. I bury myself to fret about history and about virtue, as a dog in an old notebook scratches a dirt floor of 30 years ago. We scrape womb-shaped lamps, mostly quotes from others, to plant new bulbs. Poetry is just, no one reads anymore. You can thank God, hat pulled tight. A few loose pages no one drives over, only to find stiff hoses in the burnt yard. They're not Barty parts, not yet. That's when we'll know sunlight traverses unequivocally. The difference between a soul and a body? Not much. Well, I like the first poem. We find ourselves at another party. It sounds like we need it in here right now. The title, Animatronic Poem. Some of you will likely know this word. Animatronic refers to puppets that are animated electronically. This poem takes place in my hometown of Tucson. Animatronic Poem. A few locals loll with their legs stretched. They look dead or relaxed. The moment before action where we're shooting a scene. Bowls of guacamole, salsa, and chips hold positions on the low table. Bouncy Latin music breaks from the player in the armoire. I surface from my thoughts, loaded as a submarine. A couple spins briefly. She's wearing an ivory skirt and bright tank top. Works her hips such that the spaghetti straps droop a little down both arms. She's having fun for the first time in a while. Maybe the world stopped and started again. Why else is the barbed wire behind the house notched with pieces of dresses and trousers? A guy with a ponytail who's been hiding in the kitchen occupies the couch with a cola. Rapid-fire laughter. When asked who you are, say my name. I'd like to do one brave thing before I'm ashamed. Somebody shouts. Another holds his finger in one ear and a phone to the other, his face tight. Are you here hunting for someone? Squeals accompany the unwrapping of gifts, paper party dresses hastily removed, people shoved into a pool, spilled salsa, tequila, the past, the future, all hobnobbing. Do we few who never knew war think of ourselves as political victims? At any point along a continuum, does horror negate life? Such a reverent group. I'm going to have to get nasty here. This next poem, while it's my longest, it's not quite my last, but it will be almost my last, is the title piece of my collection, and it comes with a disclaimer. This poem contains nudity, profanity, and violence. Something for everyone. Who is Trixie the Trasher? Is she a faceless woman using a bidet and chamber pot, bending her backside to you, legs splayed, maybe masturbating, naked, but for stockings and heels? Somebody who's all over art history and also in dire need of money? Wait a wicked second. Death, dear reader, is the correct answer, a metaphor that darkens and makes more common the young lady in the bathroom who needs time to freshen up and dab on a bit of face cream and cover her stretch marks and bites. She'd rather go listen to the radio in bed alone, sing off key, and sip whiskey slowly. Trixie, dressed for business as a rare disease, attack of the heart, nerve-blowing stroke, etc., doesn't require your imagination to fuss over her, or a car and driver, or some drunk fuck on the street with a money clip who doesn't know what he's getting into and can't wait. As a writer, by definition having direct access to you here, however briefly, I grant you every little thing is passing faster than he can find his dick in his dark suit. I'm talking about the operator who's been eyeing the poor soul. She's on the street because, frankly, it's time for another Joe to blow. And while he's diddling with his ignorant self, I'm doodling that he's about to die and doesn't realize, because today, death is walking the street in tight jeans. Lousy with feminism, I'm investing her with adamantine fury that she turns big time on you, because you're a manifestation, too, of something before willpower or after, that only the idea of mortality, and maybe the work of art, can affect. I've chosen the figure of a denizen who'd as soon read the news as hunker down with anything hotter than a coffee. Eventually, I'd favor nothing more than to get the girl off the avenue. Should I put her in a factory or at the head of a company in something Chanel? Unless you see yourself, you need to stop staring from your plush booth at Trixie, who just spilled her espresso on her inner thigh and cried out, "Holy shit." Why erase you? I'm assuming everybody has it in her and him to dehumanize. So I mash this up and invite a call girl, a synecdoche in fact, who helps me with my hoax poem to fell you like a wall bed. The power I can give her is her dignity, by her gaze and upright gait, distanced from craving, which leads to suffering, which leads to craving, and you paying with the loss of your best self. For my money, she'll be sensible, compassionate, and you won't see her coming to deliver your final blow. I hate to see you suffer. So, hastily, right when people all over this town have their top down, it's a Saturday, could be you're idly reading poetry. Holy crap, you're pinned by Trixie to a stretcher that has never, nor will ever, be thought of as sexy, and whose ancient calling to haul you away is everywhere about as perverse as all the places you've taken this faceless makeup. I sew your handler into tight pants and hope in a moment of enlightenment that you also see her limping and holding her jaw in one hand. She hasn't the time or money to get to a dentist for a root canal or Walgreens for gel pads for her feet. Everything changes the moment we take pity. Her tooth is killing her, giving her her humanity, a provisional victory, and God damn it, it hurts. Would you ever catch her at home, washing her panties before dawn, her dishes, leveling with you in this sexist world of male gaze and female fuckability, everyone looking for a little empathy in the end? What bit can be learned about a culture that objectifies death and sex equally in an alley or a painting, while a human being, empowered, devoured, tired and crying, too hungry not to hurry after work, drops her hamburger and fries on the sidewalk? I'm ashamed. Art may be by nature manipulative, exploitative, and fallacious, not ever necessary before food, water, shelter, and a friend. But our most distinguished self isn't simply anyone on the cheap who stereotypes. More likely a woman or a man who loves life like nobody's business. You're made to think on some level scaffolding collapsing that art's a dirty trick. Some creep who crashed and trashed your place, or in this case, your person in this poem. In my farce, a deconstructed model delivers the all-powerful consummation that catches you off guard, bang, like a hammer to the head. A cartoon image, to be sure. Perhaps not a gratuity that you can afford. But in your wildest imagination, if art means anything, you realize what is represented here doesn't exist. If there's a murder in a poem, no one calls the civil guard. Which means forms are free to lead like lampposts down a city block through perversity and degradation to our higher selves. We get there circuitously. For another thing, Trixie's cracked a tooth bringing the goods to you. So, death and beauty are going to be your own hot grad student in a tight knit, in a dirty corner of your mind, lies beside you in the afterlife of this work, appealing to your common sense. A Trixie the trasher who, queer and straight in some measure, desire and postcoital admire for having the balls to make hard, cold cash quickly. I could have made death a god, a razor, a jailer, not the one you're preternaturally drawn to, with the aches in her foot, mouth, shoulder, her lips all glowy, skin snowy, hair piled to one side, etc. Pay no mind. The metaphor loses capacity after I've had my way with you. Art is cruel, but life is more so. As I lay you outside of time on a cold marble slab as a sculpture of a human being seen and seeing, I tire of the game and lend a tired young lady the money to earn a judgeship and suffer mostly desperate men. As perverse as you, I'm Trixie's brute, but also her witness and subject. Hell, I can only write from my wasted heart that no one gets to possess Trixie. Fantasy's disastrous. Some young soul's harrowing experience who dresses her body in a little black nothing after a fashion. She's one lonely bitch. You, scared shitless in your last minute blurt. If I were, no harm intended, a male writer, could I have you say that? The debasement we all fear the most? Hey, death has no personal interest in you. A thing of beauty, like a clay pot or a glass bowl. She bows and puts a liquored cigarette out in your mouth. Art is righteous loneliness. Woo! This last poem is a kind of coda for my students tonight. Well, for anyone who is a student of the arts. By way of thanking the Mishner Center for these last few years, Valentina and I have been here and we've just fallen in love with Austin and with all y'all, as I've learned to say recently. So this one's for you. May you always be the darling of fortune. March 7, and the snow flees like eloping brides into rain. The imperceptible change begins out of an old rage and glistens chaste with its new craving, spring. May your desire always overcome your need, your story that you have to tell, enchanting, mutable, may it fill the world you believe. A sunny view, flowers lunging from the sill, the quilt, the chair, all things fill with you, and empty, and fill. And hurry, because now as I tire of my studied abandon, counting the days, I'm sad. Yet I trust your absence in all things wholly visible, the rain and the white basin, and I, vigilant. Thank you.
What was your last poem called?
May you always be the darling of fortune. You, sir, indeed. I hope so. Yes.
What inspired your most recent book? How did you start generating this poem?
Actually, the first poem that I wrote was Swan Hair, which is dedicated to the memory of C.D. Wright. And Valentina and I arrived in town the day that we learned that she died. Was it last year or 2 years ago? God, and you know, like everybody else who knows her work, we were really freaked out, and I just started to write. That's where. And really, all I had were questions. I just couldn't understand how someone with that much lifeblood would be taken. As we all would be, but it just was so shocking. So, and I still haven't gotten over it. And I highly recommend her new work is coming out posthumously, a study of the beech tree. Come on, you cowards. What you got?
Was
Yes,
the poem with your columns, was the horizontal reading a discovery, or was it intentional?
It was intentional. It was intentional. It's actually, the columns are lined up, but the lines are somewhat slanted toward each other. They're not even. So you can read it in lots of different ways. It was a lot of fun. I realized that it seemed kind of gimmicky, but the more I worked on it, the more I wanted to work on it. So, and of course, there's no end, right? If you're a writer, you know that you could keep going and going. It just sort of stopped it, and I hope it was okay. I've never really read it out loud, but this seemed like a friendly crowd. Anyone else?
Yeah.
Please.
I don't want to just say the title of the book to you, because that feels like a weird question. But I'm curious about the name, Trixie the Trasher, and if that came, and then the poem, or like just who that character, how that figured in relation to the poem in the book.
Well, Valentina and I were driving along one day, and it just popped out in the air, and I thought, that's a great title.
Nice.
And, you know, it was sort of 1950s, 1970s, or whatever it was. It just seemed really, like, comic book character, cartoony, but also kind of trashy, and then all the sounds of the T's. I don't know. I just kind of fell for it. And then I wondered, who is she? Did I have to date her? Yes, Elizabeth.
Jane, you're a great poet and also a great reader.
Thank you.
And I wonder what your relationship to putting the words on the page and saying them out. I'm always just astonished by how beautifully you read your own.
Well, thank you. I went to your reading recently, so I know you have a great poetic ear, and I don't know if you work reading it out loud while you're working or later, but I spend a lot of time with it out loud, and so I think of it as dramatic and musical. But then I can't read some of them out loud because they don't seem to work out loud. They're more mental, and so I hopefully I left those out tonight. We'll see. I see a lot of critics in the audience that know me personally, so I'll find out. But I do try to present the more musical ones aloud. Thank you. Yes.
What are you reading right now that you like a lot?
Hi, students.
No.
That's what I'm reading right now. I love Amy Winehouse. Does that count? Just listening to her on the way over here. One more? Yes.
Do you have a favorite plant?
Favorite plant? Well, after living in the desert for many years, I guess I'm kind of a cacti girl, and the saguaro is limited to just the Sonoran Desert where I live, part in Arizona and part in Mexico. And so, those are the ones that the poet Joy Harjo says they move around at night and in the morning they're back, and she's probably right. So that, I guess is that a tree technically, or I'm gonna go with plant. I'm thinking it's a tree. I do love them. Well, good night and thank you.